for us to have you all here. And glad to be back in Davos in the original Davos because last year it was in May. So we have original Davos in winter now. And thank you for coming once again to Indonesia Pavilion. We will have our first panel discussion this afternoon with our ministers and also other panelists. And without further ado, I would like to invite Minister of Investment for delivering his opening speech and also to give his keynote speech. Pak Bahlil Lahadalia, we invite you to deliver your speech. Kita berikan tepuk tangan yang meriah untuk Pak Bahlil Lahadalia.
Selamat siang, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for coming in the Indonesia Pavilion. Yang saya hormati Pak Menko Marinvest, Pak Luhut Binsar Panjaitan. Kemudian ada Pak Wamen BUMN, Kepala IKN, dan Pak Dubes Swiss. Dan Bapak Ibu semua, izinkan saya pertama menyampaikan terima kasih atas kehadiran Bapak Ibu semua pada kesempatan yang berbahagia ini. Ini adalah start awal untuk membuka meresmikan Indonesia Pavilion, yang mana kali ini kita akan mengangkat tema tentang hilirisasi yang berorientasi pada industri, green energy, dan lingkungan. Yang kedua adalah kita fokus pada pembangunan ibu kota negara baru yang ada di Kalimantan. Bapak Ibu semua, seperti kita ketahui bersama bahwa tahun 2022 sudah berakhir dan kita masuk pada tahun 2023, di mana tantangan global yang semakin hari semakin susah untuk diprediksi. Pasca pandemi belum berakhir, muncul perang Ukraina sama Rusia, yang pasti semua negara kena dampaknya, krisis pangan dan energi. Ketegangan beberapa geopolitik di kawasan Asia juga terjadi, dan menurut saya ini sebuah tantangan baru. Namun ada beberapa tawaran dari Indonesia dalam rangka mendorong pertumbuhan, satu-satunya di negara G20, nanti akan disampaikan oleh Pak Menko saya, Pak Luhut, tapi bahwa pertumbuhan ekonomi Indonesia di kuartal ketiga 5,72% dan inflasi di bawah 6%. Mungkin menurut saya ini sebuah pertumbuhan yang salah satu terbaik di antara negara-negara G20. Kami bukan negara maju, kami negara berkembang, tapi bukan berarti kami ketinggalan untuk mendesain pertumbuhan ekonomi bangsa kami. Yang kedua adalah kami juga mendorong tentang hilirisasi. Hilirisasi ini penting sebagai bentuk dari proses bagaimana mengelola sumber daya alam kami yang berorientasi pada konsep SDGs. Karena tidak hanya pada konteks lingkungan, tapi juga adalah bagaimana tentang peningkatan kualitas hidup masyarakat setempat, lapangan pekerjaan, dan juga pertumbuhan ekonomi. Dan kami dari pemerintah Indonesia menawarkan kepada Bapak Ibu semua investor untuk silakan datang ke Indonesia. Dan saya yakinkan bahwa di Asia Tenggara populasi kami yang paling banyak, dan hari ini negara yang sekarang lagi bagus-bagusnya, ya kami tidak bermaksud mengatakan kami yang terbaik, tapi memang kenyataannya kami hari ini yang terbaik di sana. Saya pikir demikian. Nanti Pak Menko yang akan mainkan. Saya menyampaikan silakan datang ke Indonesia dengan membawa teknologi, silakan membawa dengan modal dan sebagian pasar. Nanti pemerintah punya tugas akan mengurus seluruh perizinan dan akan mengurus seluruh insentifnya. Selama kalian serius, kita akan kolaborasi bersama untuk membangun peradaban dunia dalam rangka kesejahteraan masyarakat global. Terima kasih.
Thank you, Pak Bahlil, for delivering your opening speech. And now we will have our coordinating Minister for Maritime Affairs and Investment. And we now invite Bapak Luhut Binsar Panjaitan. Please give a big round of applause to Bapak Luhut Panjaitan.
Emang ada slide enggak tuh? Minister Bahlil, ladies and gentlemen, Welcome to Indonesian Pavilion. My name is Luhut Panjaitan. I would like to give you very quick what happened in Indonesia. I think this title, Indonesia Post-Pandemic Economic Recovery and Economic Transformation. 2023 will be tougher than the year we just left. If you look at this one, I think the slide, Minister Bahlil already mentioned about the issue about this. And I talked to some leaders also some times ago. Nobody can predict about tension like in Ukraine, which is I think could impact also a lot toward economy. Third, the global economic will experience contraction. This is I think if you look at this chart, yeah, this is I think very important. If that something happened in Ukraine or so, it may be somewhere in the Asia like China and Taipei, it's gonna be like this, or even worse than this. GDP share is of expected contracting countries. If you look at this next slide here, you see that also gonna be impacted by that. Global economic activity has shown sign of slowdown. This is, I think, predicted by the World Bank and also by the IMF. So we have to look at also this is as a challenge to the near futures. Downside risk for Indonesia, lower commodity price, yes, but again, we are confident because we have 4 pillars of our economy today. Number 1, downstream industry. Number 2, the commodity price. And number 3, efficiency through the digitalization all the government today. So you can see the last 2 years, I think the government revenue, government tax hike nearly 40%. The price down, yes, we believe that CPO, coal and iron ore and nickel, crude, you see the slide here, slightly don't go down. But palm oil, we believe that we can maintain around $800 to $900 per ton, because we understand right now with the digitalization, nobody can play around anymore. Upset risk, China reopening will give, of course, positive impact to the global economy, especially also to Indonesia. And we believe if China can open and China economic growth going to be around 5%. And we believe again our economic growth this year is going to be around 5 to 5.3%. Last year, 5.3%, around inflation, around 5.3%. And this year, we believe also going to be around that one. Facing tougher year, Indonesia is well prepared because we experienced during the COVID, how do we balance between the COVID to handle COVID and also to handle economy. Despite global turmoil, Indonesia macroeconomy indicators, if you look at here, this is I think our growth, this is the third quarter, this is our inflation rate here, and this is also debt to GDP, if you look at this one. So basically all the numbers, all the indicators showing that Indonesia performance maybe I should say much better so many countries globally. Supported by the strong consumption recovery, high investment growth, and strong export performance. This is, I think, if you look at all the data here in investment realization, I think because of the Minister of Investment working very hard, is to look at the chart here. And also with, this is, I think, yes, the teamwork, working very much. Otherwise, the investor is going to be hesitate to invest in Indonesia. But I should say this year, pipeline for the downstream industry is going to be around $31 billion. So we don't have much problem about investor today. How do we execute that process? That's the issue. This is also the data here. And we expect a strong consumption growth in 2023. And this is very important to all of you, ladies and gentlemen. I talked to the AstraZeneca this morning, and I showed them this chart. If you look at this is the COVID first time, and this is a Delta. This is the Delta, this is the Omicron, and then this is the last one. So we experience very much. We make it all this decision through the data. We use what do you call it, Facebook, we have NASA, we use also NOAA data. So we can see the movement of the people, because this is very important to make a decision. So decision-making process subject to the data availability. So if you look at this one, then we look at this data with the latest, COVID, Omicron, not much impact on this issue. So then we advised to the president last year, December, that we can end the COVID-19. But we're still very cautious on this. We look at the any maybe new variant. But after Christmas and after the New Year, normally we expect 3 weeks. But then after 3 weeks, no indicator turned up, then we are done. That's, I think, the strategy that prepared by the government of Indonesia. Besides that, Indonesia has the capability in terms of medical intervention and high immunity to control the COVID-19 pandemic. If you look at this, ladies and gentlemen, this is, I think, I showed to the AstraZeneca people. Look at the booster here. We are the highest booster compared to any countries globally. Yeah, maybe top 3, top 5. Yeah, this is 29%. If you look at this also for the vaccine 2 and vaccine 1. So that's why antibody in Indonesia is 98.5%. So that's, I think, how do we manage, and how do we manage our country on the issue of COVID and economy. So we never lock down Indonesia. What we are doing in Indonesia, basically just to semi-lockdown in some area. Consumers are still optimistic about the current and future economic condition. If you look at this also, consumer here, very index, confidence index, current economic condition index also, where all the data showing that we are doing very well. Consumption will also be helped by the first year, 1 year cycle before the election. April next year. So if you look at the what do you call it, the cycles of this, all the data, I think, showing very good, because spending is going to be there, so then the economy is going to be moved also very well. As well, potential recovery tourism also, you look at this slide also, I have to be very quick because they remind me in 15 minutes. Yeah, FDI in the manufacturing sector showed the increased trend as a result of the downstream policy. This is the data that you see here, ladies and gentlemen. FDI in other sectors have also shown larger failures than the 2021. Look at this data here. Yeah. And downstream industry is still a big target for investment. Focus on accelerating granting permits. This is, I think, Minister Investment Bahlil job. That he has to make sure everybody want to invest in Indonesia, they can go through the to the right channel. Now we have also game changer in Indonesia. Downstream industry will continue. New industry will develop in North Kalimantan. This is ongoing right now. We're going to have the largest petrochemical in the world. This is like $56 billion for the next 7-8 years. Are under construction already, this one, already 10-15%. The number of investment is like $132 billion. And that's how we're going to produce this one, iron steel. This one very important. The new energy battery could cover 3 million cars. So EV, 3 million car EV. So then we can, deal with US, deal with China, also deal with the European countries. Because the cost in Indonesia compared to any countries, much lower because we have a green energy. We have 437 gigawatt of renewable energy in Indonesia. So this one, we're going to we use 11 gigawatt, not 10, 11 gigawatt of hydropower, and we have also 10 gigawatt of solar panel. Construction aluminum smelter in North Kalimantan, of down in something like this. And now let me touch about the last part. It's about G20. Investment will also be driven by the G20 deliverables. This one is very important. If you look at this data, ladies and gentlemen, I was also surprised, because but the president gave me instruction to, to list down the result of the deliverables of the G20. There's a number: multilateral deliverables and bilateral deliverables. 140 and then 226. The amount, if you look at this, 238 billions and $71 billion for the bilateral deliverables. So you can imagine that we have to execute this one right now, like JET-P here, JET-P $20 billion US dollar. We are working on that very much today. Increase of global commodity price. I mentioned to you about the downstream industry, about the efficiency today. So then the commodity price. We rely on commodity price, but today we will not rely only the commodity price at all anymore. Increased ratio of iron export. This is also, next slide, please. Next slide. If look at this one, iron and steel export to the world. This last year is $27 billion US dollar, before nearly $21 billion dollar. But if you compare it to the 2016, you see the difference. So that, I think, will make Indonesia different today, with efficiency, downstream industry, and also the commodity price. And the last one is the Dana Desa, or village fund. Village funds, very, very important to bring stability in Indonesia, because we have 74,000 villages around the country. So each village, government directly from the central government, we inject 1 billion rupiah. So the economy within the desa, within the village, moving very, very well. That make Indonesia become very resilient today. Now, increased export from the downstream industry contributed to increase of export and trade surplus. Next slide, please. Yeah, this one. You see this one. This is, I think, very important. Iron and steel export. You know, this is iron and steel trade balance. So you can look at this one. How do we manage our economy today? Because the decision-making process in Indonesia today, this is also run by the young people of Indonesia. People sometimes, the developed countries say, hey, you have to be careful with the climate change. I said to one of the senior American government, I said, hey, don't lecturing us about the environment, because we have also responsible to the next generation of Indonesia. My granddaughter, eldest granddaughter, she's studying in America. She's studying in the Georgetown University. She's the one remind me, and she said, Opung, grandpa, don't ever make any policy against the interests of my generation. That message is very powerful. So I said to anybody in a forum from the Western country or developed country, hey, you don't need lecturing us on that. I have responsibility of that. So I'm not going to make any policy against the interests of the young generation of Indonesia. I promise you. In addition to iron and steel, downstream industry export has started to move to the paste production. This is, I think, very important. Not only iron and steel anymore this year. We have already nickel made in production. You see here mixed precipitate export destination country. And China becomes Indonesian main export destination. And if I move to disciplined fiscal policy, achieving budget deficit target 1 year before 2023. Next slide, please. Yeah. Next slide. Yeah. If you look at this slide, ladies and gentlemen, I'll show you all the data about Indonesia. So all the data you look at this here, I think showing that we are doing very well today. I mentioned about digitalization, this one. We have a budget, government procurement, 105 billion US dollars. Used to be, we import 95%. Now, this year, we're going to be, to import only only 15%. So 85% going to be local production since last year. So then could also bring efficiency. This is 27.9%, and also about efficiency of this 29.7%, and could impact also toward our corruption, and less corruption because of this, because you just go to the e-catalog. This is a catalog today. Everything you do, you go to the e-catalog. You don't need to do tender anymore, you go to e-catalog. E-catalog controlled by the government. Now increase the village fund, like I mentioned to you earlier. This is, I think, the village fund. This is the number of that money. This is the program they make it in the villages around the country. I have the village road, bridges, village market, and etc. That help people over there. Our population today 282 million people. Our middle class around 65 million. Manageable inflation. I think if you look at those also, we are quite okay. The core inflation only 3.36. Yeah, let me repeat, 3.36. That's the core of business of inflation. We have another inflation because of the onion, we have the chili, we have eggs or something like that. My conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, in the midst of a global economic slowdown due to the tight financial condition and slowdown in trade, Indonesia economy will continue to grow strongly in 2023. So we don't have need any hesitation about Indonesia. If we manage Indonesia like this for the next 10 years, I think we can, we don't see any problem with the middle income trap. Indonesia has proven that 2022, the domestic economy has been able to recover and is a solid fundamental performance. Indonesia has also prepared itself for the risk of global slowdown, including by not relying on the raw commodities, growth inclusiveness, accompanied by fleet strengthening and government efficiency. Government efficiency, ladies and gentlemen, is very important. Yeah, very, very important. Like I mentioned earlier, the data showing that we can save like 29.7%. Make Indonesia become very, very competitive. Economic conditions that have recovery and stronger, accompanied by the increased optimism, will Indonesia capital to grow more than 5% in 2023. Why it happened? Before I end my speech, I think strong leadership. That's number one. Strong leadership, and the leader give the good example to the people of Indonesia. That's a very important. The third one, the last one is we have a very strong team. A strong team, this I think could solve a lot of problems. We proved it during the COVID-19. Many people hesitate that we can, we cannot handle the COVID-19, but we proved it. Maybe Indonesia one of the best of country to handle the COVID-19. Thank you very much. I'm very welcome to Indonesia.
Thank you very much, Minister Luhut, for delivering very insightful keynote speech so that the audience, ladies and gentlemen, have better understanding about the current situation in Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, we will have 4 panelists, but due to the tight schedule of our ministers, unfortunately, all ministers probably cannot join all the discussion, but we will invite 4 panelists, and we will have Ibu Amalia Adininggar Widyasanti, the Deputy Minister for Economic Affairs of Ministry of National Development Planning. We will have Bapak Rudi Suprihadi Prawiradinata, Deputy Minister for Development, Monitoring, Evaluation and Control, Ministry of National Development Planning. Bapak Dadan Kusdiana, Director General for New and Renewable Energy and Energy Conservation, Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources, and Bapak Yuki Nugrahawan Hanafi, the Vice Chairman Coordinator 1, Indonesia Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Kami persilahkan Bapak dan Ibu untuk maju ke depan. Pak Dirjen, Bapak Deputi dan Ibu Deputi, juga Bapak Yuki. Kami silahkan. Oh, thank you very much. Minister Bahlil will stay here and also Minister Luhut. Thank you very much. So, related to our theme, the theme that Indonesia brings to Davos this year, which is the sustainable economic transformation through downstream industry and inclusive partnership. So we will discuss in terms of planning and also in terms of the new and renewable energy. And of course, we have the perspective of the entrepreneurs, and it is represented by Kadin as the Chamber of Commerce and Industry. So now I will give only 5 minutes to Pak Rudi. Only 5 minutes, I'm sorry. So then we can have discussion with all the audience. So please, Pak Rudi.
Thank you very much. Yang terhormat Pak Luhut, Pak Bahlil, Pak Bambang, dan Pak Dubes. We have just heard about the macroeconomic and condition of Indonesia from Pak Menko. I would like to go down deep how we prepare the national planning, particularly for the annual government work planning. So Bapanas, in this case, have an assignment based on the planning law to preparing the long-term development plan, medium-term development, and the annual government working plan. So this, I just want a little bit back to the this process. Before we start with the annual government working plan, we start actually from T minus 2. So this is very important to make sure about the theme for the annual work plan. So we discuss starting with the public consultations, and then we have what you call it, discussions with the Ministry of Finance, because again, Ministry of Finance have development budget responsibility. So once we have an agreement with the team for the national annual government work plan, then we discuss with the all ministries, with the local governments, to make sure that the development planning in line within ministries and also local government. So that's the initial part. After that, we have to make sure that the collaboration, I mean the coordinations and meeting with the parliament. So this is very important. The first stage is actually technocratic planning. And then once we have an agreement about the annual government working plan, then we discuss with the parliaments. Once we finalize this, and then we have to update it, the government working plan, to make sure that the technocratic and the political discussions finally achieve once a document for annual government work plan. So this is very important for us. That's supposed. Next slide, please. Pak Angger, next slide. Sorry. Ini lebih enak ya. Iya, iya. Sorry, it's easier to stand than sit. Okay. Mas. Yeah. So I just explained about the process. So to determine the government working plan for 2023, certainly we start with the achievement of the target, development target for 2021. And since the process we start in 2022, so we focusing on our outlook of the 2022. Later on, Ibu Winnie will explain about how we're preparing the outlook for 2023. So next slide. Sorry about this. So yeah, based on the next. This is the one that I just explained. Next slide. So this is the basic information that we use to preparing the annual work plan for 2023. Next. So once we decided the theme itself actually not decided only by Ministry of Planning, but also with Ministry of Finance, and decided in the cabinet meeting by the president. So basically, this is the decision of the president. So in 2023, the theme is productivity improvement for an inclusive sustainable economic transformations. We just heard Pak Luhut mentions about the how we recover from the COVID. So in 2021 and 2022, in 2023, we want to focus on the improvement of the productivity. We want to make sure that the economy can be grow faster. There are 8 policy to make sure that the productivity improvement for the inclusive and sustainable economic transformation can be executed. For example, the acceleration of the elimination extreme poverty. Even though we focus on the improvement of the economic growth, we want to make sure that the economic growth is inclusive. The poverty rate can be declined. And also, I think one issue that you will heard after this is about new capital city. That is actually one of our strategy to boost our economic transformations. In the next slides, this is the target.
I'm afraid that your time is up actually.
Yeah.
So probably one more slide. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
So this is the target for 2023 for the economic growth, 5.3 and 5.5%. Open employment, unemployment rate, Gini ratio. This is still a big issue in us, particularly between the group and also in the region. Greenhouse gas emission, poverty rate, Human Development Index, and for the farmers' term of trade and induces. So, and then once we decided about the target of the economic growth, then we distributed to all regions. How one region can be contribute how many percent, something like that, depend on the potential that they have. So this is next. The next slide show us about the decision of the government and the parliament about the budget allocation for each national priority. We have 7 national priority, and this we distributed to 45 major projects. Next slide. So there are 7 national priority. Number 1, dealing with the economics. So I will give a little bit more detail about the national project. There are 9 of them. I will give you about one of the major project, number 5, in the national priority number 1. Next slide. So basically, we just want to show that every major project will involve every stakeholders, not only government, but also private sectors and also government-owned enterprise. So including also local government and community. So we tried the best we can to optimizing all resources that we have. I think that's all I can share with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mic 5, please. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you. So now, still from the Bapenas, from the Ministry of National Development Planning, we have Ibu Winnie. Ibu Winnie, your time, yeah, the stage is yours. You have 5 minutes. I'm sorry, I have to be very tight because, you know, we have more panel discussions after this first discussion.
Yeah. Thank you, Bu Tina. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'll be very quick, and also I'll be focusing on the outlook of Indonesian economy in 2023. But before that, slide 5, please. Slide 4. So in slide 4, I just want to show you that in 2022, the Indonesian economy until quarter 3, we are reaching the growth of 5.72% year on year, or 5.4% cumulatively. So Indonesian economy in 2022 is growing very strong. And next one. If you look at this, what I would like to highlight from this slide, that based on the assessment of Bloomberg, that the probability of Indonesian economy to go on crisis is very small. It's only 5% compared to the other country. The probability of recession for Indonesian economy is very, very small because we have a very good and strong macroeconomic management. And if I can go to the slide 11. In slide 11, I will be focusing on what Indonesia economy will be look like in 2023. And next slide, slide 12. So inflation pressure will be easing because of the pace of US inflation will also be declining. Based on our forecasting that inflation in ASEAN countries, that Indonesia will be quite moderate. In December 2022, Indonesian inflation is around 5.5%. Next slide. So fiscal outlook in 2023, the deficit is targeted below 3%, around minus 2.84% of GDP. And this is actually to ensure fiscal sustainability and credibility. Furthermore, if we could show you how the inflation and exchange rate in 2023, those inflation and exchange rate will be under control and will be managed very well. Inflation will be targeted around 2 to 4% in this year, 2023. And rupiah exchange rate will be around 15,000 per US dollar. Ladies and gentlemen, the economic outlook in 2023 is targeted, the economic growth of Indonesia is targeted around 5.3 to 5.5%. And this will be driven by private consumption, which is like about more than 50% of our GDP is driven by the consumption. And also investment, which is around 33% of GDP is actually driven by investment. And then investment is actually targeted to grow at the rate of 6.1 to 6.3%. In slide number 16, this is what the investment needed. Sorry, slide number 18. Indonesia's investment needs is around, in total, about 6,519 rupiah trillion. And the I-Core will be around 6.1 in 2023. And this is actually much better than the previous years of Indonesian I-Core. How about the banking intermediation? The banking intermediation is actually performing very well. Banking liquidity was still relatively ample, and it is actually a good signal to enter 2023. Banking performance is also relatively healthy, and most of the indicators of banking performance is improved in 2022. And banking credit is also improving, showing an improving trend, and this is reflected by a better quality credit and higher credit growth in most sectors. And if we can see, next slide, credit growth projection in 2023 will be higher than 2022 because the liquidity in banking sector is still enough to boost the credit growth of Indonesia. And for your information, that we just launched the financial sector reform through the new law, which is stipulated just about early this year. And this is the law number 4 of 2023 concerning the financial sector development and strengthening bill. We call it P2SK. And this law has an objective to have an inclusive, deep, and stable financial sector for accelerating national economic development. This is actually the omnibus law of that really amend the 17 laws that is for more efficient financial sectors. And in summary, I could show you that Indonesia's economy is recovering and growing very well throughout 2022, and also it will be continued in 2023, and the domestic market will be the basis foundation and the important pillar of the economy to maintain stability and growth. And the growth target in 2023 will be achieved through the all program plan that is already been explained by Pak Rudy. And for example, the Indonesian economy will be supported by increasing productivity, mitigating scaring effect of the COVID-19, and also it will be supported by the development of green economy strategies that will be the new source engine of Indonesian economic growth. And last but not least, for this Indonesia's to maintain the Indonesian's growth momentum, that stakeholder participation is very much needed, and we will welcome for you all to come to Indonesia to invest and to work together with us. Thank you, and have a great day.
Thank you very much, Ibu Winnie. Thank you. I know it is hard for you, for explaining within 5 minutes, but you did a great job. So, ladies and gentlemen, now we will have the DG for New and Renewable Energy and Energy Conservation, so that we can understand where Indonesia stands right now and where we are heading to. Pak Dadan?
Terima kasih, Mbak Tinams. Very good afternoon to all of you. I would like to start with providing you with the numbers of last year in the energy sectors. Last year, our growth of electricity was 6.5%. And the growth of the fuel utilization in the country, the consumption, was even much more higher, 11.17%. So this I would like to convince to you that Indonesian economic now is back again, has been back again, in particular in terms of the energy sector, electricity, the fuel, and others are already in the quite high in terms of the growth. We have very good result in terms of the G20. We just started to have the investment plan for the JP. We work with some countries of the IPG member coming from G7 and coming from others, from the commercial sector on this. So we will see that this year we will have some list in terms of investment, in particular for renewable energy. We are, of course, committed on the NDC and also net zero emission. You may see here, in particular in Indonesia, the consumption of electricity is even less compared with our neighboring country. Say, for example, with Vietnam, with Malaysia. This actually will open to us that Indonesia, with what mentioned by Pak Luhut earlier, with the growth of the industry, then we will need much more energy to support the economic, the industry, and others. So I would like to say to you that for next year, if I heard that the projection of economy is 5.3, that if you translate it to energy growth, it has to be multiplied by at least 1.5%. So this year, we believe that the growth of the electricity will be somewhere around 7 to 9%. We need, of course, to add more in terms of the capacity. Of course, currently, we have enough capacity for electricity. I think will be finished by 1 or 2 years more. But the government has decided not to add more not to add new coal power plant. We have the regulation on this last year. So I believe that from now on, that the clean energy investment will be the only investment in terms of energy, in particular for electricity in the country. We have decided that the target of renewable energy is 23%. Of course, the growth is quite less up to last year, but I think I'm sure that from now on, because we have already regulation of the tariff for renewable energy, we have regulation of the president on this last year on September. So this year up to 2030, we are targeting to have somewhere around 20 to 21 gigawatt additional capacity for electricity coming from renewable energy. So we see on that part. In terms of the biofuel, Pak Luhut mentioned on palm oil. This year, even we are increasing the implementation, the blending ratio to be 35%. Up to this month, we are blending to 30%. So actually, we are the largest country, the highest in terms of implementation of biofuel coming from sustainable palm oil. So we will have 13 million kiloliter coming from palm oil to be blended with the diesel fuel. We have launched the net zero emission. The president has launched on this 2060 or earlier. We will have mostly coming from renewable energy. In addition to that, we will have also some programs of the CCUS, the battery, the gas as the transition energy on this. So we believe that from now on, that all of the project, the implementation, the programs will be basically based on the sustainable energy resources. We have more than enough of the renewable energy resources in the country. With the current potential is about 3,000 gigawatt. We are almost the largest in terms of the potential of geothermal on this. We have also enough resources coming from hydro, bioenergy in particular, for example, not to mention the solar. So to end my remark on this, so this is the realization of the investment up to last year. Next. So we add something around 20 to 25% of our increase in the growth of the investment to be seen by this year. We'll have more projects coming from renewable energy, of course, and also coming from electricity sector, but also the sector of oil and gas, in particular for gas investment, is still having the good attention from the stakeholders. So by this, I would like to conclude my talk. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pak Dadan. Minister Bahlil and Minister Luhut always emphasize about the collaboration between the government and private sectors and also SOEs. So we have Chamber of Commerce and Industry. We have Pak Yuki as the Vice Chairman Coordinator 1 to explain from the entrepreneur's perspective. Pak Yuki.
Thank you, Butina. It's always hard for the last person to give the presentation. So I'm still want to thank you to Pak Bambang is here as a chief of New Capital City. Thank you, Pak. Two excellencies here. And also my chair advisory board, Pak Anin, also here. And I would like to, Pak Arsyad is in Perth today as a Indonesia Chamber chairman because his father-in-law is passed away 2 days ago. So I just want to say sorry for that. So ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. So I believe that everybody is already explained. I don't have to go for detail, but I try from the perspective of the private sectors that we look at today the biggest challenges that don't respect borders. They are global in nature. Everywhere we look, we see that the nation and economic are facing a variety of challenges. Pindah aja. As the result of recent challenging global economic downturn, Indonesia economic stand out of the relative safe with strong domestic fundamental that can withstand recently effects. In 2022, we have succeeded to maintain our economic growth above 5% and keep our inflation rate below 6%, relative much lower than other countries. With this impressive track record, Indonesia Chamber of Commerce or Kadin believe Indonesia economic will continue to grow stronger and reach 5.3% in 2023. We always know that it always have opportunity and the challenge, but how we do raise up the occasion and survive this indirect impact of global recession. We need to strengthen the majority of the enterprise in the country. In this case, it's micro, small, medium enterprises who are responsibility for employing 90% of the workforce and contributing to 57% of our GDP. MSIs, unlike big corporations, are also the key for our country to break free of the dollar trap as they don't depend on US dollar in their operation. We at the Kadin gone through this effort by several programs, such as like inclusive closed-loop partnership. This is a multi-stakeholder approach. It's which big corporations assist small businesses in scaling up by the transferring knowledge, providing best practice, increasing market access, ensuring buyers for their product, and assisting them in obtaining better financings. Wiki Wirausaha, a web-based platform aimed at connecting MSMEs with solution providers to help them transfer digitally and tap more opportunity. The goal of the project is to ensure that our MSME have the right knowledge and capability to break into the export market. Last year, in the B20, we signed an agreement with JETRO for our MSME breakthrough the Japanese market. Second, we need, of course, help from the policymakers, regulator, the strengthening our domestic market and increase domestic consumer appetite for locally made product. So, it is impressive for all stakeholders of Indonesia economic to help build our MSM. Recently, we thought they are strengthened and success, it will be difficult for Indonesia to emerge as the third biggest economy in 2045. To boost its economic Indonesia, this is Pak Bahlil, Minister Bahlil, Pak Luhut is always mentioned regarding that move away from the exported raw material to focus instead on the developing in the downstream industry. We need to integrate our MSE in our value chain to produce the robust, resilient, and complete domestic supply chains, so we are able to compete with imported goods. Play important role to economic and the social government, contributing to the value-added activity, innovation, and inclusive growth through the creation of job opportunity, and they are present in both urban and rural areas. So, as the world faced the globalization in 2023, but I believe, Indonesia Chamber of Commerce believe, Kadin, as the home for Indonesia businesses, stand ready to collaborate with the government of Indonesia to boost small medium enterprise, resilient the heavily strengthening regional economic, ultimate the national economy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Pak Yuki. So you already, yes, 5 minutes. Right? Only exceeds now, like seconds. Only seconds. Thank you so much, all panelists. Now we have only 20 minutes for discussion. So I would like to invite, ladies and gentlemen, if you have questions to our panelists. Anyone? Yes, please.
Hello, my name is Roland Jensen. I have a question for you.
To me?
Yes, only for you.
Okay, only for him.
I know that in Nusantara, the main source of renewable energy will be hydropower. Are you going to give room for other sources of renewable energy like solar, wind, and biomass?
Thank you. Pak Dadan? Yes. Okay, I have to, you have microphone there? Thank you.
Because the chief of
Specifically for Pak Dadan regarding the energy and our new capital. But we have Pak Bambang here actually. So, Pak Dadan, please.
Thank you for the question. I think the detailed answer will be coming soon after my session, with Pak Bambang, the chairman. But I would like to say to you that, of course, we are seeing that all will be clean energy from the beginning. So, if you said hydro is located something like 250 kilometers from the city. Is it possible? Yes, but it may take probably 2 or 3 or even 4 years probably from now on. So we start on the preparation for the first electricity to be in the city. But I think Pak Bambang will be mentioning later on in much more detail on this. Yeah, we do agree. To have more, it's not only hydro, we have to work with other as renewable energy mix.
So, thank you, Pak Dadan. If you have any questions, Bapak Ibu? Yes.
Also to Pak Dadan.
Pak Dadan. Okay, Pak Dadan.
I
Again.
read a new policy was created for private households, which limits 15% of the installed capacity on photovoltaic. How come?
Well, the question was very specific. I don't know whether others understand with the question. We have the program of the solar rooftop in the country. We have currently, actually, the current regulation is to have the export-import mechanism. So when we are putting our solar panel in the roof, then we can use that produce electricity not in the real time. So we are putting in the grid, then we will be using again in the night. Now that regulation is being revised. It's being revised. So because the principle of the solar rooftop is for the own use. So we will revise the regulation by having that we will not limit the capacity, but we don't use the export import. So it is only exactly that the government through the PLN will provide the incentive not to have the capacity charge on this. So they will be free of charge of the capacity charge to back up the intermittency on this. So we are working on that. I think for industry, for commercial, it will provide much more better mechanism on this. So because they have the base load on this, so having no limit in terms of capacity, probably they will use this as the base load also on the daily use of electricity during the day. So during the day, so there is no limit anymore for the capacity, including the household.
Thank you so much, Pak Dadan. So you have you have two questions now. So I think we have the opportunity, our last opportunity. So if you still have question, okay, okay. Thank you so much. Then
Terima kasih.
we can give big round of applause for our panelists. So that concludes our first panel discussion, and we still have many more discussions to have here. So don't go anywhere. And thank you for coming to Indonesia Pavilion. Good afternoon.